The joys of waiting for the stream to start.
You're good.
All to make sure that it's muted. That's it. And there we are. We are live. Triple T number 144. Rock and roll on October 1st. How did it get to be October? Like, what the what? Here we are, October 1st, 2024. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is TJ Zill. I call myself a professional problem solver, which I always follow up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking questions to help people get to the solutions they are looking for. And if you're watching this as the recording, thank you so much. But we are also live on YouTube, where I get to say, hi, Mom. Mom is watching in Minnesota. And for all of you on YouTube land watching live or the recording, please do all the YouTube stuff. Subscribe and ring the bell and leave comments and comment on other people's comments and all of the above, because I ain't gonna lie, I like the comments. Let's see what else. YouTube live, and I do, as long as we're talking about online presence, I do have a website, which is theTSWB.com. The Tall Skinny White Boy is what it stands for, and I don't care what else you found on the internet, and if you haven't looked yet, please don't. There's some really weird stuff out there, and I've been the Tall Skinny White Boy since '86, before the internet, so there. Even longer, right, Mom? Let's see, what else? I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That is your opportunity to get a hold of me and invest 30 minutes with myself, and we'll go over what kind of changes or answers, solutions you may be looking for. I have the privilege of helping people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, relationships. Holy cow, been getting a lot of that stuff lately, with great results. What else? I work with professional athletes, all the way, athletes from beginner all the way up to professional. So if you're wanting to perfect or improve the mind game, which is always funny, I find, especially when I talk to the intermediate level athletes, the college athletes and stuff. I love asking them, in the blend of what it takes to be an athlete, what do you think the blend is between the physical ability and the mental game? And the most common answer I get is about 80-20. I'm like, okay, which one is the 80? They're like, well, physical. I'm like, okay. So tomorrow you wake up with the perfect body, the Adonis body, the absolute, God designed the perfect body for this. You instantly become the absolute all-time MVP. You break every single record ever. Or have you ever had somebody smaller than you, weaker than you, hand you your lunch out on the field because they just happen to be like they're one step ahead of you or something? They just don't get rattled. I said, yeah. And I think you're right, Elijah, 60-40, 55-45, somewhere in there. And when I start working with the athletes and all of a sudden they're getting these clearings and these ahas and these epiphanies, they're like, oh, holy, I went, told you. One of my favorite success stories is a professional baseball player who literally thought his career was finished. He was the old man, and a few other things, limiting beliefs, and we went through and cleared them up. And then I worked him through a couple of special protocols that I have for athletes. And in 3 weeks, or 3 sessions, I had him throwing longer, harder, and more accurate than he had at the peak of his career. So that, what else? Oh yeah, I do also provide corporate coaching, because I've found that CEOs, COOs, and OOOs, and all the other O's that are there are human. Can you believe it? With their own challenges and limiting beliefs and all the above. And I've had the pleasure of working with some pretty high level people in the corporate world, and we knocked some stuff right out the park. So, and I don't say that to impress you, but to impress upon you. If you know somebody who is feeling like they're not at the where they could be, they're not at the top of their game, there's something that's just kind of holding them back, have them get a hold of me. Let me do a free consult with them. And I promise you, if I'm a fit and I feel that I can help you out, I'll let you know. But I also promise you, if I feel like I am not a fit, I will let you know, and I will do my best to find somebody who is a better fit to get you the solution that you're looking for. Next, time to introduce the tie of the week. The tie of the week. And I counted. I kind of miscounted. I should have laid them all out for the year. I have more fun ties left over than I've got weeks of the year. So it's fun tie all the way through. I thought I was going to have to do an ugly tie breakout here one of these weeks, but this week I've got poo on my tie again. Look at that. I've just a little bit of poo. Yeah, who doesn't like poo? If you do, give me a call. I can help you with that. Other than that, who's got something awesome or has epiphanies or something that happened in the last 7 days since we were here? Anybody got something they can share? Go ahead.
I am so excited to share with you all that my 5-day challenge is finally ready. And the website is up and running and things are going really, really great. And the 5-day challenge is for emotional eating. It's an awareness challenge. I'm calling it the 5-day, completely free. And I'm going to put the link in here for you all. If you know somebody or if you yourself would like to come, by all means, it's going to be amazing. And I highly recommend.
Awesomeness.
I might just be favoring me, but I still highly recommend it.
I completely stand behind that emotion.
And I have about 45 things for hour number 2.
Awesome. So we're not going to have that pregnant pause while everybody's playing.
We might, but mostly now it's just for fun.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Anybody else got something they'd like to share from the last week? Yes? No? Yeti? True? Well, then I guess it's time for us to dive right into the topics of the week. And for number 144, today's topics are My House, 5 Slogans, and Solitude. And it just dawned on me, one of the comments that, yes, I do read some of the comments and I reply to some of them, one of the comments was they wanted me to describe more in length what we're going to be talking about. I went, no.
My world.
Tune in and find out what the clue is all about. It's kind of like Jeopardy. What is? So, my house actually is a metaphor that came from a session that I did this week. And it was to help a client with dealing with opinions from other people and feeling judged and all the above. And those of you that know me well know that I'm also thinking about getting a t-shirt that says my name. I'm Metaphor Man. My entire life I've just had this ability to come up with metaphors on the fly, metaphors, analogies, different ways to help people see things differently, reframe stuff for people. Right, Mom? And so my house came about to help this client with feeling judged and dealing with other people's opinions. And what I told her is the foundation was put together by parents. For the most part, the very initial foundation, by their values and criteria. And they, along with the values and criteria, helped you decide how this house was going to be built, even though you've never built a house before. And they're doing the best they can with the tools, knowledge, and energy they have available to them. And then you turn 18. Ba-da-bing! It's your house. You got to maintain it. You got to deal with it. And you think you know everything. I've been in this house for 18 years. I know all I need to know. Leave me alone. You take the welcome mat out for different people, and you take the welcome mat away for other people. That's when you learn a little about independence. But there's a face we haven't seen for a while. Yay! So while you're living life and going through stuff, your house is continually being built, and you're trying to make the front yard landscape look the way you want it, make sure that the outside of the house looks nice, because you want to impress people to a point. But it always seems like there are certain people that love to tell you what you're doing wrong. Yeah, I wouldn't put that color on my front door. No. That was a comment about your hair. And then they make comment about the clothing you're wearing. And yeah, those shrubs in the front yard, they're kind of high maintenance. I don't know. I probably wouldn't do that. Your father and I, but we were told you never put that kind of. And you start looking at your house, and your friends, of course, are telling you, you should do this, you should do that. Don't do this, but do that. And then you get into a couple of relationships that come in and kind of like termites. And you finally get to a point where hopefully you meet somebody that can help hold up a mirror. Maybe they're into construction. Maybe they understand maintenance. Maybe they know how to talk the talk. And you realize that, the electrical panel is not in very good shape. Yeah, you got some termites in the around the frame. Maybe you got bats in the belfry. We got meds for that. But after a while, if you're lucky, you realize it's okay to do some rebuilding. You can go in and you can gut the kitchen and do it your way. You can improve the plumbing. You can improve the roof. You can do all these improvements. But the other thing you have to remember, take out the trash. And so many people, I've used this metaphor many times, everybody wants to make sure that their property looks beautiful from the street. Oh my goodness, it's got such curb appeal. Look at me. Uh-huh. I got it going on. Yeah, right. But they don't want to let anybody in the house because the inside of the house is under-maintained. It's full of rats, whatever, bags of garbage, stinks to high heaven from all that stinking thinking going on. And if somebody got in, they'd be like, oh, what's with all the bags of garbage? Well, like that bag right there was the time when I touched the burner on the stove and Dad had already told me like 37 times not to touch the burner, but I just didn't know why. So I touched it and I got this lesson, like, don't touch the red burner, but Dad lost his mind because he was having a bad day anyway. And he yelled at me and called me names and stuff. And that's all the garbage that came with the lesson, but the lesson is inside the bag yet. And in your mind, well, I can't get rid of that's an important lesson in there. You don't know. I mean, I recovered, but I remember. And too many people don't understand. You can reach in and pull out the lesson because that's all you need. You don't need the schmutz. You don't need all the junk that came with the lesson. And so you're like, just reach in and pull out the lesson. Yeah, but you don't know what's in there. I mean, there could be bad stuff in there. And that's when I remind my clients, you've already survived it. One of the protocols that I love to do, and I do this anywhere, is I call it, for lack of better terms, it's basically a timestamp protocol. And I will tell people, I'm going to ask you a kind of a simple, crazy question, but I'm going to ask it to you twice. I want you to tell me the exact time and date, including the year. And it's funny because a lot of people actually stumble on it at first. They're like, wait, what? I'm like, what's the time and the date, including the year? And they'll like, it's 6:21 p.m. October 1st. What year? 2024? Like, yes. And then I will echo it back to them. It is 6:21 p.m. on October 1st, 2024. And the fact that we can have this conversation right now, that you can hear my voice, means that you, and then I'll say their name, have survived 100% of everything life has ever thrown at you. There is not one single thing from your past that you have not survived and that you are not stronger than. And all you need from the past is the lessons, not the story attached to them, not the schmutz, not the feelings, none of that, just the lessons. Because everything that happened back there made you who you are today. But you don't have to drag the schmutz with you in the future. All you need are the lessons. So as I told you I was going to do, I'm going to ask you again, what is the exact time and date, including the year? Now they'll look and they'll go, it's 6:23 p.m., October 1st, 2024. I said, yes, it is now 6:23 p.m. on October 1st, 2024, and you're not even the same person you were when I first asked you the question. And you have survived every single thing that has ever happened to you from conception all the way up to this exact moment in time. And all you need are the lessons. Again, you are not the same person you were because you now understand more than you did the first time I asked that question. And the look and the reactions I've gotten from people makes it worth it every time. Lenora.
I love this metaphor, and I remember us talking about it at one point, and then I'm dusting off some files in my brain. Something that was really helpful was when I started to play with this a little bit with a client, and I imagined them when they were 18 signing over the deed, signing over the contract of the house from their parents. So helping them understand even more now that it was ownership. And then even in some cases, I had them tear up that contract and draw a new contract, helping them really even solidify further the changes that they were going to now take ownership of because it is theirs. That was something really helpful.
Yeah, because now that you are over the age of 18 and you get to decide how you want your life run, what improvements you want to make, how you want to build your home. When you redo your kitchen, you can put whatever sink you want in there because it's your kitchen. And people can come in and go, oh, you got one of those sinks? Oh, they suck. I would never use one of them. Oh my God. And you're like, good. Do me a favor. Don't put one in your kitchen then. But this is my kitchen, and I picked it because it fits my values and criteria. You wouldn't pick it because of your values and criteria. And you get such freedom now that you get to go back and look at the bricks in the foundation that your parents laid for you and go, that one doesn't fit really anymore. It's kind of crumbly. It's kind of, yeah. And you get to pull that one out and replace it with something stronger, something that serves you better, because it's your foundation. You also get to decide what direction the house is oriented in. You also get to decide where the house is located. Just because mom and dad wanted you to be safe and they put you in the very center of the city, like right next to the police station and the fire station so they could keep an eye on you, you can decide, not much of a city person. Think I want to watch the sun come up from my bed. Or if and actually you could design it so that your bedroom is on the top loft and the sun comes up over there and it goes down over there and the head of my bed faces north, and when I wake up in the morning I go, it's gonna be a good day. When I go to bed I go, that was a great day. And it doesn't matter who thinks it's crazy, because they don't have to live in your house. Mark. Did I see your hand come up, Mark? Or any other?
Can you continue the metaphor?
What's that?
To continue the metaphor, sometimes recent events, the hurricane comes along and wipes it out, and wipes out, and then you get to rebuild it all over again, and you can rebuild it any way you want. Sometimes having a storm in your life and take it right down to the foundation, and then you get to rebuild it.
I am so glad you brought that up, because it fits right into the near-death protocol. Ken Guzzo is doing remarkable work with this, because he pointed out that one of the main life experiences that help people completely change their lives, 180 degree, bing, is a near-death experience. And that could be the equivalent to having a hurricane come through and you may still have a foundation, you still may have, electrical supply and your plumbing and your services and everything, but the rest of the house is gone. And you get to take a close look at the life you've spent so far and where you're at. Because a lot of us think that it's really hard to move. I've lived so many different places. It's getting harder and harder to move the older I get, because I am so blessed by the universe with the accumulation of stuff. People come over here and they're like, "Man, you have a lot of stuff." I'm like, "Yep. Well, I would never have that much stuff. I'm a minimalist." I'm like, "Thank God. You would never want to live here because I have stuff. Because I'm not a minimalist. I'm me." And yet, I know that, heaven forbid, my heart absolutely breaks for all the people that have dealt with what's going on over on the East Coast. And one of my distant cousins' wife's sister, I know, one of my distant cousin's wife's sister is the one whose 7-year-old son and parents didn't make it. They were on a roof trying to make it, and the roof collapsed, and so my cousin's wife and her sister lost their parents, and her sister lost her 7-year-old. So I know that all of this is stuff. And as much as I love my stuff, it doesn't make me who I am. And I've watched people lose a lot of stuff. In fact, part of the reason why a lot of this stuff, these trinkets and stuff up here, mean so much to me is because that's about all I really got from my property that I lost in '07. But had I not lost my property in '07, again, I wouldn't have ended up in San Diego. I wouldn't have met Dr. David, and I will most likely would not know any of you. So, this means a lot to me, but because this is all I've got left over, that's how I met you guys. And so I'm hoping for all the people that have gone through horrendous tragedy out there, that when the water subsides and the cleaning is done and they get to take a look, that they realize that as they still have a foundation built of values and criteria, that those foundations, when built properly, can never be destroyed. The rest is just stuff. So, my question to you guys is, what remodeling projects can you do on yourself, on your house, now that you realize that if the people that you grew up with don't think it's the right thing, good for them. They got their own damn house they need to worry about. Your foundation, my friend, is a little shaky. And that roof line is receding, so there, better fix it. Any other insights, ahas, epiphanies on your house protocol?
Loved that one. Thank you for sharing. I'm sorry to hear about your family. It's really hard.
Thank you. Jade?
I actually just had an experience in relation to this that I'll go ahead and share. It has to do with my son, though, and it does have to do with me as well. But I was like so excited and proud of him. It felt like a sort of reparative experience for me personally. But yesterday, I picked up my son from school and he said to me, he's like, "Mom, I think I'm getting sick." And I said, "Oh, all right. When we get home, we'll take your temperature and, you can rest." And I remember when I was a kid, and still to this day, my mom never believes when I'm sick. I told her I had COVID a few years back, and she's not in good condition to get COVID, which is why I wanted to stay away from her. She didn't believe me, and I ended up giving her COVID. So yeah, that's like the extent that she doesn't believe me too. And I remember we went home and his grandma was like, "Oh, give him, Tylenol." And he said to her, he said, "No, I'm not going to take the Tylenol." He's like, "I want something more natural." So I was so proud of him that, that he felt like, first off, that he could say, "This is how my body's feeling," and not be gaslit for it. And then also to be able to decide what he puts in his body, and what he doesn't want to put in his body, and then have that be respected, that sort of, I guess it was a very reparative experience to me, because I had a completely different foundation growing up. That was something that I had to look at and say, this isn't working for me. I don't like it. And having my own son, like, I want to do these things differently, and doing that differently with him. So yeah, it was a similar experience, being able to see like what kinds of things aren't working in my house anymore that I want to change.
That is awesome. I'm so glad you shared that. That is not only a strong foundation, but you're teaching him how to take care of the framework, the plumbing, the electrical, and all of that stuff. So kudos to you. That's awesome. Anybody else got anything before we move on to the second one? See if we can get all three in tonight. All right. Moving on to 5 slogans. Does anybody recognize that phrase, that concept? It comes from AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. One of my clients has been going to AA meetings for, I think they said 17 years now. And they went because of somebody they had been with and decided to stay for their own mental health and support, because of the support that they received there, and they wanted to continue to give back. And thank you, Elijah. Hello, everyone. My name is Elijah, and I'm a hypnoholic. Yes. And the interesting part is the amount of different groups there could be, should be, would be. But one of the things that they have, and my father went through treatment when I was 12, and so I'm familiar with it. Our family went through the support group like she did, and I had forgotten about the 5 slogans, but they're a great reminder for virtually anything as far as I'm concerned. And number 1 of the 5 slogans is easy does it. Easy does it. To help people remember, especially those that are dealing with addiction and things of that nature, to relax and go at their own pace. The second slogan, progress, not perfection. And I've kind of come up with my own slogan for that, where I've always taught my clients and students, instead of perfection, pursue excellence. Perfection doesn't exist anywhere other than in your worst thoughts, because you'll always be let down if you're going for perfection. Excellence can be built on continuously. The third slogan is first things first. Learning to prioritize and understanding life happens. You build your priority list for the day. And if life happens and you don't get to all of those on your priority list, then we go back to easy does it, progress, not perfection, and back to first things first. And one of the add-ons they did to that one was just do the next right thing. If life happens and it gets in the way of the priorities that you set up, you just do the next right thing. Number 4, we've all heard, one day at a time. Sometimes when life is dropping the sewer bucket right over the top of you and you're swimming in the mucky muck, one day at a time. Even if all you can vote for is to make it to the next hour. And when you make it through those 60 minutes, then you go for another 60. Whatever it takes, however far down you have to break it down to make the survival, you do it. Those that know me know that I've been through a few things, and I've had people like, how did you get through that? I went, maybe thinking back, maybe it was the stuff I learned through Al-Anon, Alateen, and all that stuff. Lenora.
I love this. I think we were talking about this at the beginning of the year. So we were talking about doing tasks and I think it was just do one more thing. Or I know Holly is very big into just do one thing, spend a short period of time in it. Maybe it's 3 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes, just do one thing. And it's so funny that you had mentioned it, because all this entire week, or so it must have been last week and then this week, and I kept thinking, just do one more thing. Just one more thing. Not I have to get to one thing. It's like, okay, finish this. Just do one thing. Just do one thing. And really trying to give my attention to that one thing. Because I found that I had multiple things and I was getting overwhelmed, and then I was trying to avoid the entire space. And that was definitely unproductive. But really taking it, and I like what Elijah said, one moment at a time, whether it's one moment, one thing, one set of 5 minutes, trying not to look down the pipeline at whatever it might be, the 5 hours or the 24 or the week or the whatever, just one thing, just one more.
Yeah.
Really powerful.
And so often we overestimate how long it's going to take to do it and underestimate our ability to get it done. I've been guilty and surprised with that countless times. Put it off forever, and I'm like, I don't have time today, do it. Oh man, I should have got that done today, but I just don't have time. And finally, I'm just like, get it done. And when I'm done, I'm like, I could have done this like 3 months ago. Are you kidding me? I was thinking it was going to take me like 2.5 hours, and it took me 20 minutes. For real? Because we overestimate how long it will take and underestimate our ability to get in there and get it done. And then slogan number 5. We've heard this before, but it's so important. Feelings are not facts. It's not what happened to you. It's the story you made about what happened to you. Go right back to the metaphor of the bag of schmutz over there. All you need is the lesson. the feelings, the stories, the reactions, the story that you wrote and then rewrote again and then rewrote a couple more times because you kept telling it, but it kind of changed and you didn't realize it changed and it got worse, or it evolved into this, oh my God, woe is me. And how has that served you since the situation occurred? And if we actually had a videotape of what happened, would that really be what happened? I've had a number of clients when we went in and did regression, they came out and went, that's not exactly how I remembered it. I said, no, that's not exactly the way you ended up telling it. You edited it, and then you edited it again, and then you re-edited it. And somewhere down the line, through the grapevine, I don't know if you guys have ever played that game where you get a whole bunch of people in a line and you whisper something in somebody's ear, and then they have to quickly whisper it down the line. And then the last person has to write down what they were told. And hardly ever does it match the story that started at the other end. And yet here we are, repeating, telling these stories, not realizing how much we butchered the original. That's a good topic for our second hour. Elijah said we should talk about memory reconsolidation and how it works. Yeah, because the more you're around this, the more you understand. If your memories aren't that real anyway, then why not make them awesome? Why not remember great shit? And I'm not talking about taking your memory and absolutely turning it around into where, you know, all of a sudden you were Superman and you crushed the car and you ripped the door off and you pulled out the... No. But you can remember the worst part of the day or the best part of the day because you were there and time's passing anyway. The worst part of the day, extract the lesson, and then try to remember what the best part of the day was. And go with that, because you were there for both. I use the flower garden metaphor all the time. Yes, you can talk about that one weed in the flower garden. And most of us will, because of how we're trained, that's what we'll remember. That one weed, oh my gosh, it had thorns this long, went right through my hand, and blood everywhere, and I almost died, and You got a sticker in your finger. Yeah, but you weren't there. It hurt. Yeah, but what about the roses? Wait, what? What about the roses? Oh yeah, there were some roses there, weren't there? I don't remember much about them. But that thorn about killed me. I almost died. And don't you take that away from me. Yeah, well, I was there too. And the roses were amazing. There were red ones, and there were yellow ones, and then there were the striped ones, and then there were the climbing ones. And how do you remember all of that? Because I wasn't crying about a damn thorn. I got the same thorn in my finger when I pulled it out of your finger. And then I threw it away. And then I went back to smelling roses. So there. So feelings aren't facts. That's the 5 slogans. Any ahas, inputs, epiphanies on that before I try and squeeze in one more? Yes, Jade.
What you were talking about just reminded me of a technique called fast phobia. And so a lot of times people will use it for like events that are traumatizing, because if we look at our memories, it tends to be the ones that are more intense that stick out. So it tends to be the more negative or painful ones that we end up focusing on.
Yes.
And so what it does is it takes that sort of chunk of time and you neutralize that intense moment. And as you neutralize that, it allows you to begin to focus on other things. And it's almost kind of like deleting a memory, but not quite. It's just that we don't really focus on or remember as well our memories that are more neutral.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I love what I get to do in helping people go into their library and look at some of the stories that they've written about the experiences they went through and go, yeah, but you survived everything in there. Everything. There's nothing that you are not stronger than. Well, yeah, but this one time. And if it didn't kill you, you're stronger than it. You survived. So what are you going to do tomorrow? Gather up your lessons, leave the schmutz behind, rebuild. Build a better house. Anywhere you want to, any way you want to. If you need help, a lot of people on this call can help you. We know how to do that. Which leads us right in, oh, Holly.
Sorry, I was just gonna. One of the thoughts that's been running through my mind is so this guy that I like to watch his videos a lot, Dr. John Maloney. I don't know if any of you watch him at all. But he has a saying that I might get it wrong a little bit here, but I believe it's grief demands a witness. And one of the thoughts that I'm just kind of thinking about, because we've talked before about the difference between processing and ruminating.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was thinking is that sometimes people get in a place where they haven't processed it yet, and they're already basically being guilted for trying to process it. And they may even be being gaslit to the point where they're being told, hey, your pain isn't real. And so sometimes I wonder if, when we get poked by that thorn, maybe we need that brief moment to say, first of all, is there a lesson here? What did I learn from it? But you can't even go there until you say, yes, I really was poked by a thorn. And so once you're able to finally have somebody say, yes, you really were, somebody else is gaslighting you. There were no thorns out there. You're just making it up. There were just beautiful roses. When you finally have somebody there that says, you know what? Yes, let's look at this. Yes, you really did have a thorn. This is what it means. The lesson you can take from it. And once you've done that, now you've been allowed to process it. And now you can enjoy the roses and say, hey, it wasn't all thorns. Yes, there were beautiful roses too. But yeah, sometimes it takes that moment of somebody saying, yes, your pain is real, and being allowed to process it and actually extract the lesson. To extract the lesson, you have to actually recognize there's a lesson there and actually recognize that something happened. So just thought, but once again, don't get to the point where you're now ruminating on it.
Yes.
Then once you've processed.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. That's a great point. And kind of like having rats in the house. Those people that are gaslighting you, the narcissists, the gaslighters, and all of those people. Time to exterminate. Out, out, out. My house is my castle. And I don't need stuff like that running around. which I got 4 minis to put this in. Solitude. And sometimes we really do need that solitude to take a little time to walk around the property, walk around the house, and really inspect our thoughts, our where we want to go, and invest time in ourselves. And one of the things that a couple of my clients are going through right now is they're in that transition point, which is the lonely point. Because in the solitude, they've realized that some of their lifelong friends no longer fit into where they're going. And so they have to distance themselves from that negative energy, those negative habits, those negative whatever. And they find themselves in that point where they kind of don't have friends anymore, because they have to find new friends at their new level. And I've had to reassure them, you will. They're looking for you as well. Don't settle. When going to a brand new school, and I've told a couple of kids that are people that I know moving, I told the kids, I know you want to be accepted, but don't get in with the first crowd that pulls you in. Take some time, spend a little time on your own. Be nice to everybody, but don't get into the first crowd that tries to pull you in. What you're going to find is oftentimes the higher level crowd is more selective. It's kind of hard. It's a little harder to get into the VIP area than it is in general admission. So know your worth. Know what you want. Know what you want next year to look like. Who do you want to have in your tribe? You guys have heard me preaching on this, ringing this bell like crazy for the last 6 months? Build your tribe with intention. What is important to you about? Because we have multiple tribes. You got your coworker tribe, you got your Sunday school tribe, you got your high school tribe, you got your family tribe. You got all these tribes. And now it's time to find that next one that matches and challenges you to reach that higher level. Make sure that when you go into the room that you're not the smartest one in there. Make sure that when you go into the room, you're not the one with the highest energy vibration. Make sure that when you go into that room, you're not the biggest forethinker, dreamer, worker, all the above. So that the group that you find will help lift you up And once you've been there for a while, it's okay to want to go to the next level. But those interims in between those can get a little lonely. Solitude is not always a bad thing, as long as you are productive in your solitude. I've watched a number of people go into solitude of, oh, woe is me, and sit around and binge watch Netflix and cry about their boring life because they're in solitude doing nothing. And so that's why I push my clients that solitude is going to be okay because you're moving to the next level. Does that make sense? Any input, ahas, epiphanies on that one before we finish out the hour? Lenore?
I would definitely say to continue to do your personal work in exploring what you want in friends and what you want in a tribe. And I think that's something that will forever be near and dear to my heart, because I always considered myself somebody who kept people at a fairly good distance. Like, I could have surface conversations, be super, super friendly, but I really wouldn't let a lot of people in. And I had the friendships that I did always ended in whatever situation, just kind of grew out of them. And long story short, I would still encourage people to keep looking for what they want in friends, but also be willing to be vulnerable, be willing to have those conversations with other people to see if they're able to be on the same wavelength with you. Because had somebody not been encouraging me to do that, and I kept running around with the model of what I thought a friend was from when I was 12 years old, would not have served me. So I really do think that when people say, go out, make new friends, see what you like, keep exploring, be willing to come back and say, okay, I did like this. What didn't I like? And to keep really exploring more about yourself and what you want in those friendships, and the friendships that you're finding that are, wow, this is a really nice connection that I'm having with this person. Notice what you like and keep leaning into that. Keep moving, and of course always be testing. But their friendships are very, very, very different compared to what I thought about when I was a teenager or even a tween.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I was much younger, thinking that the people that I knew in high school, the people that I was friends with in college, very few do I still talk with. Even fewer are they still in an active participant in my life. And I never considered that as something that would change. Even super close family members, I never considered it to be something that would change, and it has, very much so. So to really keep exploring what you like in your friends. And I think also when we talk about tribes, sometimes we can, in my head, it was like, oh, this is my group of people versus this person is my person, this person is my person. And they might not gel, they might not ever meet each other, but they're still important to me. And that, I think, is your tribe, rather than this collective group that what I thought about when I was younger was going to be my collective group of people.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because Squirrel delivered a really quick metaphor. When you're rebuilding your house, you don't have to build it on your middle school playground just because that's where your friends that you knew are. They've built their houses other places as well. It's just something that you have in common. They're still one of your tribes, but you don't have to live there and you don't have to constantly visit them. It's just something you have in common over there. Jade.
Love what you said so much, Lenora, because I agree, especially in, friendships or relationships, so any kind of relationship. We do have to look at that because we've built a foundation usually based off of our very first relationships. And those weren't always best format for a relationship. And so sometimes people are accepting things that aren't good for them or aren't healthy just because it's familiar to them. And so it's a really good thing to kind of go and look at that. And a lot of times, I'll notice people when you ask them the question, well, what kind of relationships do you want or what kind of friendships do you want? I don't know. I don't know. Like, but the truth is that we do know. And we do know because we wouldn't feel the uncomfortableness or we wouldn't feel the pain that we do when interacting with people and it's not matching what we really want. So, whenever we're feeling uncomfortableness or pain, yes, there could be a belief there that is causing that. We could have made a meaning. So we have to look at that. But also, it could be giving us information as far as knowing what it is we really do want. And when we have that really clear picture of what it is that we want, how do I want to interact with this person? What kind of conversations do we want to have? How do I want them to respond to me? Once you start to know those details, you're so much more likely to actually get that because now your brain knows what it's looking for. And so when you find that, you're like, oh, I know that.
Yes. Awesome. I'm so glad you shared that because another thing that got, and I know we're over time on my hour, but I wanted to point this out. One of the best things about travel is meeting people from all over. And the more you interact with them, the more you start to see that, oh, this values and criteria brick in my foundation, that's kind of weird. That's not very strong anymore. I think I'm going to replace that one. And you start building a different foundation. The more you travel, the more people you meet, the more you interact with people, and your values and criteria will change. That's why, sometimes they say you can never go home again. And in a way, it's when I came back from Europe, it was really a challenge for me to remember who I got to be in Europe. Because when I was in Europe, obviously nobody knew me. I went there all by myself and spent a year there. And I found out who I really was. And it was really challenging for me. It was a frame war deluxe to come back to my small hometown of 187 people because they wanted to put me back in this tiny little box of who they knew I was. And I'm like, I love you guys. I mean, I grew up with you. I know all of you. I know stories of, but I'm not that person anymore. That person barely exists anymore. You see, you understand, you recognize the package. But that's not who I am anymore. And it took me a while to realize that I can be whoever I want to be, as long as as long as I'm a decent person. But I don't have to shrink back down just to fit their size. I don't have to dim my light because it's too bright for them. So that's how you guys ended up with me. And 20, 30, 40 years ago, I wasn't this person. I was somebody else. And there were people that liked me and didn't like me back then as well. And some of them still like me. Some of them don't understand me at all. Yay, because that means I've changed. And we're over my time, my hour. So for those of you that are watching the recording, yes, normally on right at the hour, I switch it over. And in the second hour on Triple T, anybody on the call gets to bring up their questions, their topics. It's open mic, open platform. I let everybody on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And if there's anything I feel that I can add after everybody else has answered, then that's when I add my 2 centavos. So, yes, you're right. And, oh, great quote. Do you want to read that one, Elijah? Because it'll be really great in your voice.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Excuse me. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world in any way, and there is nothing enlightened about shrinking yourself so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to manifest the glory of God within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously signal other people permission to do the same. Because as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence will then liberate others.
What an amazing quote. I mean, yes. And that's the best part about a tribe like this. You guys push me to be better all the time. All week long, I get to think about what can I bring to the table? What do I have to offer? I don't have to shrink down because you guys won't let me. And I appreciate that. So, enough about me. Second hour, it's your time. By the way, thank you, Elijah. That was awesome. Who's
I
got?
believe that Lenora had 43,000 different things to talk about.
45. I had 45.
But who's
That's,
counting?
you know, that's not bad. A little more practice, you'll be great at it.
You know that this is
That's
the
actually
only
already
one.
good.
This is the only one that I can actually do. If I try any other accent, it literally comes out just like this.
I had a teacher who sounded like that once.
So yes, I have stuff if you're prepared.
Yes.
Are we good?
We are good. Rock and roll.
Okay. So, 2 words that I have been gloriously playing with all week or I say all week, but really it feels like it's been all week and it's probably been a short period of time in 3 days or something like that. 2 words. You know how we say, especially when we're doing affirmations, like I choose to have a good day or I intend to have a good day. If the entire experience is our own perception, we can acknowledge that we're all in here and having an experience. And the 2 words that I really like right now are permission and experience. So permission, as in I give myself the permission to experience having a great day. I give myself the permission to go wherever I travel and only experience positive things. I give myself permission to, whatever I'm looking at, find the positive. And it felt so much more empowering when I was literally lining it up as I give myself the permission. And sometimes, especially if we have a chatty younger version of ourselves running around up here, who I have had in the past, and she still hangs around with me today, helping her understand that it's a choice, but also that I give myself permission to do this. And you can even acknowledge it as in, I give myself permission to have anxiety over this. Okay, well, I want to experience this. How else can I start to reword it? How else can I start to shift my perception of the experience that I'm going through? And I found it to be super helpful in really coming into the present moment and being able to observe and not get so wrapped up in so many other things that are going on, especially if you happen to be sensitive or extra empathic, like a superpower. You can easily pick up other people's stuff. And I would notice this and I would say, I was just doing something and I was perfectly fine. What happened? And I'd have to retrace my steps. Who did I interact with? What came up? Where did my thoughts go? And start to notice the pattern and then give myself have that level of awareness that says, okay, I don't want to be thinking this way. How else can I look at this? And it allowed me to really choose much more sharply in the moment. What did I want to experience? Did I want my emotions to be running wild, or did I want to bring them back to center? And it was really, really helpful. So what are your thoughts on my 2 new favorite words? Love Jade put something in here. You want to read it, Jade? Love
Sure,
that.
sure, because this is my thoughts on those words. That I loved when you said even giving yourself permission to feel anxiety, because in my opinion, I think that we first off we have to give ourselves permission to experience anything, especially if we want to experience the good things, right? We have to give ourselves permission to actually receive that. But when we're experiencing something that maybe doesn't feel so good, and we give ourselves permission to experience it, we are actually becoming one with what we've sort of tried to separate ourselves from. And so we put the resistance around experiencing it, which sometimes the side effect of that is getting to experience something new. And so I think that's a really positive thing. And I really love those words. Permission and experience. Yeah.
Awesomely said, Jade.
Great feedback. Who else has something? Holly.
First of all, I absolutely love this. One of the things I've been thinking about, kind of reading between the lines of what you said, experience, 99% of our experience is our perception. So I was wondering about, now I'm getting into the P's. So we've got permission. I love the permission part. Perception. And then I kind of wanted to add a third one to that of purpose. And the reason I put that in there is because I think about this a lot. And, you know, different people have different religious beliefs, whatever. But a lot of whether it's spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs have this idea that, you know, there's kind of like a higher level that maybe we came from, and now we're down here, whatever, at the lower level having experiences. And we can always get back up. But what's the value of going down and coming back up versus just staying there? Or putting it another way, why even have a life experience? You know, if we came from a world where we manifested everything we wanted and whatever, what's the point in coming someplace where that's not happening and having to relearn that skill? And so anyway, that's kind of where I come up with the life purpose of, you know, we didn't necessarily come to, this is just my personal thought, but we didn't come to have a life experience to just, you know, have it for no reason. Like, there is a purpose there. There's something that we're learning. There's something that we're helping other people around us learn that we couldn't learn if we stayed somewhere perfect. But that doesn't mean that we can't have good experiences. That doesn't mean we can't go up there. But definitely, like, you know, what permission am I giving myself? What permission am I not giving myself? What perception am I taking from these experiences? But also, what is the purpose of these experiences? And what can I take away from it? And am I living a life of purpose, or am I trying to live a life of everything going perfectly and never having to actually learn anything, never growing, never helping the people around me grow?
Great insight. Thank you.
I'd like to add a fourth P. I'm just going to say it, and then I'm going to let Mark
Thank
talk.
you, Jade.
Presence.
Presence. Awesome. Great addition. Mark's got his hand up.
I think it's you give yourself permission to experience a less than pleasant feeling. I think, it's coming up for a reason. And the reason is for it to be retuned, rebalanced, into positive energy, purpose of you coming more. When you give yourself permission, feel whatever comes up, it's coming up for a reason, so it can be refined, rebalanced, retuned, positive energy for the purpose of you becoming more than you've ever been. You have to give yourself permission. Believe in the less than positive. Thank you, Lenore.
Good stuff.
Definitely. I'm loving this conversation. Can I add something else?
Of course.
In allowing yourself to experience and giving yourself the permission to experience, I found this to also be helpful. And it is looking at and spending time with a version of myself that I am becoming. And if you go back to the earlier triple T's, like go back to the earlier numbers, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, you'll see this face, hot mess, and terrified of thinking about the future. And TJ knows this is why he's laughing. Elijah knows this. Holly knows this. And they're all going, oh, yeah, I remember that. And Nancy, Guada, everybody knows this. So in using the words permission, in using the words experience, and understanding that we are constantly creating our future. The reason I was so afraid to look at the future or to think that it was potential is because things that I thought I had believed in didn't actually manifest. And it was almost like I had gotten burned or that I thought the universe had betrayed me. And now looking back, noticing I didn't know then what I know now. So even thinking, okay, you might have had a younger mindset. You might have been operating on the beliefs of a teenager or a tween or something. You know more now. So you have that level of awareness. So allowing yourself the permission to experience a potential future that you can create for yourself. Spending time with this version of yourself that you want to become and having conversations going back and forth. What do I need to know? What was really helpful? And even Jade had just popped off and she had said, your future self, we're creating our future. And it's almost like you're kind of plugging in that destination to some extent. But the more you spend time with it and the more you notice and really spend time with that version of yourself, this version of you, which I love the words catastrophic success. I think those are such good words. I'm a word person. What does that version of you think? What are their thoughts on an everyday basis? What are they doing in their free time? What do they look up on YouTube? What do they look up on their phone? What are their conversations like? Who are they sitting down with? And when you give yourself the permission to experience looking at this and playing with it, it becomes much more expansive, but also much more safe in the, I can look at this and not fear it. I can look at this and not be terrified if this doesn't come true. I can look at this and get really curious as to what else I might like. What else might there be? What can I learn? Where else is this going? So I thought, again, with those words and how it can help connect, especially in these ways that we keep talking about the future, even though we're staying in the present and enjoying the present, and we talk about the future. But even the future version of you, in case anybody wants to know, there are 91 days left of 2024. Who are you going to be by the time that you arrive in 2025?
Yep.
Did I lose everybody on that one? I hope not.
It's where we tell everybody, okay, come out of trance. Who's got some input for Lenora on this one? Holly. Mark. Mark, got your hand up?
I said, as we know that Lenora is the voices lady. She hears all these voices in her head. My squirrel whispered in my ear, is like, what is that? What are all those voices, Lenora, going to become a chorus? And no, and blend together and create, again, create something, magnificent. Something. They said when they're all singing in harmony. What's that going to be like?
There is peace in the kingdom, believe it or not. And more frequently than not, there is peace in the kingdom. There is one thing that I thought was so beautiful. Quick side note. As you're going to sleep, I learned this from YouTube, which, oh my God, YouTube University is amazing. I am who I am, and that is enough. And if you can acknowledge that slowly and pull it into you like it's a hug, allow all the emotions that are going to come up with it. And oh my God, that's powerful.
I think I'm quoting TJ when I say, you're always enough.
Yep.
Ditto.
Who else got something to add to that? One of the things I love about future pacing is it gives your conscious and your subconscious a little bit of direction as to where it could go, what the possibilities are, what it feels like in that reality that you've constructed with all of the information you've gathered from the past. A lot of people mistakenly think that, well, if I do that, it means that I'm doing left turn, right turn, and it's got to be this 90 degree or this 45 degree, but not always. A lot of what you are projecting forward with is all the energies, knowledge, epiphanies that you've gathered along the way. But most of us are just driving random. No map, no GPS. Some of us don't even have headlights on. And they wonder why 20 years went by and the scenery never changed. Well, the scenery didn't change because you didn't change any direction. You stayed on the same boring track for 20 years. You went in a big loop. NASCAR, left turn. What next? Left turn. What next? Left turn. And when they finally work with somebody like us and realize that they can do anything. Well, yeah, but this is just an old, this vehicle doesn't have any of them fancy features. That's them other people. They're, it just plugs along. Yeah, but what would you like to do? What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you do if you knew that you could go to the parts store and add any part you wanted to your vehicle? What would you do if you could download a GPS that would take you to a life you didn't even think that you were worthy of? Because that life doesn't judge who's worthy, it judges by who shows up. Your worthiness is proven by the work it takes to get there to the new location. It has nothing to do with your past, who you grew up with, who your parents were, what their income level was, what your income level today is. Because tomorrow, next week, next year, next month is just a destination. Time's going to pass regardless, whether you're stuck on the same little loop or if you venture out on that big scary highway that has off-ramps and other locations. You're still going to drive. And then you meet people who realize they can go anywhere they want. And you hear all these stories about how some of those people, my goodness, they're driving Rolls Royces. You can't go on the same road as a Rolls Royce. What if I just turn my car into a Rolls Royce? Well, you can't do that. What makes you think you can drive a Rolls Royce? What makes you want to think I want to keep driving a car like yours? Elijah.
Yeah, apologies, a little bit of a tangent. But did you know that Rolls-Royce never go to car shows? And they never advertise their cars
Yep.
at car shows? Rolls-Royce always have a stand at the airplane shows.
Mm-hmm.
One, because Rolls-Royce do make airplane engines. But two, when you're looking at $100 million planes, $230,000 on a car doesn't feel like a lot, and so you walk away with an impulse buy.
Yep.
And it's kind of genius.
Yes. Yep. Just like when you realize that you're never going to see an ad for Ferrari or Lamborghini on your Netflix binge or your Fox TV show. Why? Because they know the people that buy them ain't watching those shows. And even if they are, that ad isn't the reason they bought it. So it's a waste of time and money. And everybody in this type of life has the ability to go out and make choices, to meet people, to put in the work, to search for ways to have that life. And I've pointed out a number of times, oh, but too much time has passed. Unless you're Colonel Sanders or, I always forget, who was the Oriental female fashion designer? Vera Wang. Yeah, if you look at when she got started. Michael.
Ferrari, what's your thought on this? They won't sell a brand new Ferrari to you or I. We have to buy the older model, prove that we can handle Ferrari, we take care of the Ferrari, and then they might sell you the latest, greatest.
Yeah. They have even taken away ownership privileges from certain people.
Yeah, the Ferrari have a car right now that you can buy but not own. They keep it at the track, and you can come to the track and you can drive it, but they will maintain it for you and they'll keep it there, and they won't have you driving it on roads that aren't perfectly smooth and things like that, because we wouldn't want to ruin the advanced engineering that went into making this car, which you bought but we didn't let you have.
And people own them.
There's a place in Palm Springs where they have a track and they built houses around it, and it's super, super elite. So you probably can keep a Ferrari like that there. No.
Yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine in Cali, they live in a community that has an airstrip in the middle, and everybody has their own little plane hangar, and that's just another one of their commuter vehicles.
I give myself permission for that. Just so you know.
Yes, because that buddy of mine, when he talks about his upbringing, yeah, his parents did not give him any. He came from a very hardworking, poor family. And he was informed a couple of times that we're not those type of people.
Wow.
Luckily for himself and his amazing wife, he didn't really believe that. He was like, sorry, Pops, but hold my beer.
But you know what luck stands for, right?
Lots of different things. What's your favorite?
Laboring under correct knowledge.
Yes.
I thought you said Lux as in Lux.
Ah,
I like Luck. Very nice.
Cool. Anything else with that? We've got 20 minis left. Lenora's only got 42,000 subjects left that she can toss our way, unless somebody else has something they wanted to throw in quick. But you got till the count of 5 to raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Guess you're going to have to save it till after we get to Lenora's 42,000 question.
Okay, so my next one was, and I was listening to something by Bashar. He was talking about excitement. So his thing is very much follow your excitement, and your excitement can be, I'd like a drink of water right now. Your excitement can be, I'd like to go outside right now. Just to go with the next of the choices that you have, go with the one that leads to your excitement. And I like that he points out that it doesn't have to be this massive massive thing that you're working on. That being said, there she is. Hello, gorgeous. When we're talking about excitement, and I thought this was super powerful because as I'm standing there, I'm listening. I listen for sure while I stand and put my makeup on. Anyway, and as I'm standing there listening to him, I'm thinking, well, then people could just constantly be running around going, I'd rather go to Disney than do anything else, or I'd rather go do this than do anything else. And he specified and he said, careful to notice that the things that cause you anxiety, that you're labeling as anxiety, aren't really excitement. And to really explore things that give you what you're labeling as anxiety. And so that one started to reframe much easier for me when he pointed that out. And one of the things that I used to find exciting and give me a ton of anxiety would be speaking and being able to be a great speaker. That all being said, I hated speaking in front of people. And it was kind of like this like idea out there in the ethers where I'm like, oh yeah, that's fun. That'll never happen. And among the many things that I've so wonderfully had amazing support and leadership and coaches on, one of them has been speaking and leaning into that whole experience of, I don't like doing this. This feels terrible. I can't even open my mouth. I'm shaking. And really just even thinking about how it's evolved for me over the last number of years when it comes to speaking. I thought it was really, really powerful to notice something that was exciting, but then to remember, oh, yeah, there was a shit ton of anxiety about this, paralyzing anxiety about this. So I thought it was really interesting to notice if you have these ideas, if you're thinking, hey, I would like to have a course, or hey, I would love to do that one day, or hey, I would really love to go there one day. But then you see all these obstacles and all these things in front of you that make you uncomfortable. That's where you want to lean in. That's where you want to start doing the work, because that will lead to that excitement that you're wanting.
Awesome. Holly.
I got a ton of thoughts on this one. First of all, I love the idea of leaning into your anxiety. I think there's definitely something there. Rather than excitement, the phrase I use is follow your shen. And they both mean the same thing. But one of the things I've noticed, so kind of like if you think about a day where you're really hungry, you have the ability to eat a really nutritious meal that's, tastes great and fulfills you, or you have the ability to binge eat a bunch of junk food. Both of them may seem like they're feeding your hunger, but one of them really is feeding your hunger with substance, where the other one is, maybe feeding your desire for taste or something like that. So when it comes to excitement, there's some people will hear, excitement and think of things with substance that really light you up after the things that help you grow, the things that help you become the person you're meant to be. But some people are going to just think of that pleasure or, pursuing lusts, things that don't have any substance. So yeah, I'm going to go to Disneyland every day of the week. And there might be a way you could go to Disneyland that it actually is leading to growth. It is leading you to face your anxiety. So I'm not dissing going to Disneyland or binge watching, YouTube or playing hours and hours and hours of video games. There's a place where some of these things might have substance, might lead to growth. And then there are places where we're just numbing the pain. We're just numbing the anxiety. One of the thoughts that kind of comes, another thought that I often get is, so I was in physical therapy for a while. And the number one thing that my physical therapist used to always say is, lean into the pain, be curious about the pain. Because every time you find the pain, you're finding a place for healing. And so I think that really applies to all areas of our life. And often, that anxiety, but, so there's two different kinds of anxiety. There's the anxiety of that quote we had earlier about the things that it's our power that scares us. It's the things we can accomplish that scares us more than the things we can't. But at the same time, I think there's protective anxiety that comes from a good place. So I think a lot of it is, listening to our body. There's no point in me going out and playing in traffic on the freeway. There's no growth there. There's a reason I would have anxiety about doing that. So, there's a very big dip, but on the flip side, yes, I agree. For a lot of people, it's, that I'm scared of public speaking. But oh my gosh, if I actually step into it and I get curious about that and I face it and, really embrace it, I could find my greatest joy there. That moment, that feeling of great accomplishment when I look back. There's a lot of talk about the best way to deal with most fears is exposure therapy. And so, it's not hiding from what you're afraid of, but it's also not going necessarily all in, because if you go too far into your anxieties before you're ready, and then you have a bad experience, you just reinforce that idea of this is scary. So it's about, as we say, how do you eat an elephant or a whale or whatever, one bite at a time. It's about exposure therapy is one bite at a time. I'm going to learn more about it. I'm going to have a support system, and then I'm going to go into it, and I'm going to teach myself that, hey, I can have success here. Hey, this isn't as scary as I thought it was. All of those supposed safety lessons that I thought were in here, they were not calibrated right, and I need to calibrate them. So, anyway, yes, I absolutely love that. But like I said, I tend to say it more as follow your Shen, and often your Shen is the thing that scares you because it actually means taking ownership of your life. It actually means standing out there where you can succeed, but also where, okay, maybe I'm going to fail, but failure is feedback, and I'm going to try again. But it's also where the growth is and where the substance is.
Awesome. Good stuff, as always. Anybody else got anything they want to add to that?
Yeah, I would like to add a little something. For the longest time, I have been telling people that your emotions are a guide. When you feel some kind of anxiety or stress or whatever, it's your body's way of telling you that something requires your attention. And when you're feeling, happy and elated and joyful and calm and serene and comfortable and all that, that's your opportunity to smell the roses and take your time with it. So, get good at listening to your body. There's an exercise I used to teach people where I would ask someone to stand up, and they would stand up, and then I would say to them, okay, sit down again, and they'd look at me like, why are you being such a prick? You want to stand up and sit down straight away. And then I'd say, okay, this time I'd like you to stand up in your mind without actually standing up, but go through the exact same sequence of all the internal feelings that you would feel if you were to actually stand up, the way you just did. Like, what engages first? Is it your hips? Is it your feet? Is it your legs? Is it your arms? Because you do use all of yourself to stand up. And you get really good by doing little exercises like that at listening to the signals of your body. And you can get really good at separating the background noise versus the actual signals. And then you'll have a whole bunch of opportunities, like people are saying, to, maybe lean in and pay a little bit of attention to the anxiety, or to, just enjoy the moment because everything's going well, or whatever else it might be. But maybe stand up, sit down, and then kind of half stand up, but only in your mind. Figure out how your body speaks to you and learn to really listen to yourself.
Absolutely. It's what I love about this format. We find out so many different things from so many awesome people. And of course, speaking about listening to your body, I've had a rough week with mine. Whew, I wrecked my shoulder almost 3 months ago now and still isn't healed. So tomorrow I find out what the MRI shows. And then Friday, I threw my back out. So I spent all weekend with a tore up shoulder and a wrecked back. And I told the doctor that I wish that everybody in the planet could only feel this for 1 week, because it would give everybody the ability to have the empathy for people that have to live this way. I mean, my shoulder's been wrecking my sleep for 3-4 months now. But when my back decided to join the parade, I will admit, man, there've been a couple of times I've felt pretty sorry for myself.
And what are your shoulder and your back communicating to you?
That I'm not 18 anymore. What the what?
And
That's
what
why
else?
you saw you. I don't know if any of you noticed. Most of the night I've been sitting here with my arms crossed because it helps support this shoulder. And the sucky part, 70% of the time, I can do virtually everything with this arm that I could before. But when I move it the wrong way or something, literally feels like a hot ice pick got slammed through my shoulder right into the joint. And it hurts all the way down to my elbow. And if anybody's ever thrown their back out, that's another one where you immediately look at older people that have fragile bodies that move the way they do, and you understand. Dropping something onto the ground makes you realize that gravity has increased and it's not your friend right now. And ground is a long way down. And you have to actually think about what different ways do you want to pick that item up, if you want to pick it up at all. You know what? I think that shirt can lay there tonight. And the ironic part is I took the stuff that I learned in pain management class with Scott Sandland and a few others. And it was probably good for me and probably not so good for me, because I probably should have had my shoulder checked out about like 2 months ago. But when it would hurt, I knew how to recognize it and manage the pain.
So what does that teach you about your body and how you move?
Yes, exactly. I'm even more adamant now. If somebody comes to me with some pain that they're dealing with, first thing I ask them is, would the doctor say it's okay to take it away? But one thing that I've found in all of my research is there's a good potential it could be shingles related. So if that's the case, with all the things I've found, it could clear up soon. Tomorrow, the doc will let me know what the MRI found. And if it doesn't show anything major in damage, then that's kind of what we're pointing towards. So, always at least 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem that could occur. And we got 4 minis left. So, any questions, ahas, epiphanies on all of the stuff?
I think very often we do tend to get a tunnel vision on what our bodies are telling us. And yes, absolutely, it's awful when things like that happen. But how did they happen? Why did they happen? What's underneath it is also information that can be useful at times. Not saying that's the whole picture by any means, but what can you learn from this experience? What can you learn how to look after you better? What, if any, tensions, traumas, associations are there with the injury that you have that maybe needs your attention? How is your body actually grabbing your attention with this injury and this extreme pain, saying, yes, we've been waiting to deal with this for such a long time. Have we got your attention now?
Right.
So, I'm not saying that is it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's worth having a consideration.
And that's where I've gone in for a couple, like my knees are not in the best condition. And I know that, but knowing that when I've gone into the doctors, I'm like, I just need to know what condition they're in. I just want to know what I'm dealing with so that I can know how to deal with it. I know that if they get sore, that's why they're sore. And so I have to take care of and watch what I do accordingly. But what I've also found is the technology for knee replacement has progressed exponentially in the last 10 years.
I think this is a wonderful area that we as hypnotists need to actually develop on how to really dig into how we can help our bodies heal ourselves.
Yes.
And I think there's heaps of room for research, investigation, experimentation, since we are also experimental people, of how we can not just take the pain away like you did, leaving the maybe damaged structure available but not hurting. But what's underneath that? How can we use this as an opportunity to heal our lives, heal our bodies, heal our emotions too? And how to move in future so that we don't start it all up again.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because in the time that I've been dealing with this, with the work that I do, the number of thoughts that have crossed my mind about, is this a metaphor that my body's dealing with? Is the body keeping the score? Am I dealing with too much weight on my shoulders? Am I, and all these things that, nothing against the rest of humanity, but when you know what you know, it makes you look at certain things differently. Michael.
Real quick, that brings in Chinese medicine, treating the body as a whole. Like knee is kidney related, also fear related. Things that you can do to work on that, foam roll around it. And have you ever used a foam roller?
Yes.
And let that muscle relax. Emotions come out. Different things happen.
Yes.
When that releases. So.
Yeah, it's interesting when, and I've got a background in massage therapy as well. And so I've got a really good understanding of the body and all of these things. And I've got an inversion table and a rebounder and all these things. And yet I get to the point where I'm like, now I got to go check with Western medicine. And I'm nothing against Western medicine. They've come up with some great stuff. But Bill Anapol pointed out the 3 I's to Western medicine: ingest, inject, incise. Western medicine wants to give you a pill, give you a shot, or cut it out. And Eastern medicine is in holistic medicine, and all these things that were poo-pooed and shut down, and all the stuff back in the day. Well, it's amazing what they were able to do back in the day when they didn't have MRIs and robotic surgery and all of these things. Yes, some of them got pretty archaic, and I'm not talking about, bloodletting and
Speech therapy.
Yes, but the use of herbs and things of that nature, kinesiology and I've witnessed enough stuff to where people can no longer tell me that stuff doesn't work.
I just have to bring in my favorite story from my father, who was a medical doctor, who used to tell me stories about how in the 1800s, a good surgeon team could have a leg amputated and sealed up within 30 seconds. Because they had no anesthetics, they had to do it fast.
Yes. Yeah. What a great... And yet, somewhere there'd be some witch doctor who would grab 17 different herbs, some mud, and some camel spit, and wrap it in a banana leaf, wrap it around your leg. You'd have a fever for 2 days, and then all of a sudden your leg's fine. So, ending on that, if there's some one of them old witch doctors out there, my shoulder and my back could use a little.
Cabbage leaves are wonderful if you wrap everything up in cabbage leaves. It's through your skin.
Right? Yeah, and castor oil and ground jalapeno or capsaicin powder and all sorts of, yeah, what a concept. But that's a topic for another week.
If you find yourself in Flagstaff, I've got a healer there for you. So just let me know.
Right on. See, this is why it pays to know people. But here we are, overtime again, because we just have such an amazing set of brains that we could talk about these things for days. But I've made a promise that Triple T would always be 2 hours, because I want to respect your precious commodity of time, because I can't reproduce it, give it back to you. So thank you all for offering up your precious commodity of time on this platform, not for me, but for the ability to help others. So please share this with others. For those of you on YouTube, I forgot last week. Night, Mom. Love you. And if you've watched the recording all the way till now, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. Please, again, share these with everybody. Fran, did you have something yet? Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure I didn't want to shut down when you're like, I didn't want her to say something. No, I appreciate that. And please just go out and rebuild your house the best way possible. Drive the car that you never thought you were supposed to, the best one possible. Build the tribe that you didn't think you would fit in, because they lift you up. and live a life that is worth talking about. It's okay to have a life worth bragging about. It is. Especially if other people are bragging about your life. Bragging about your life. Build that life and help others build the same. So until next week, love you guys. Bye.
Thanks,
Hey,
man.
peeps.
I'll take it easy.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, TJ.
Welcome.
Peace to you all.